How's it going guys, Chris here with another weapon comparison for Call of Duty's Modern Warfare and Warzone. And today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at two of the game's assault rifles. The good old Ak47 along with the FN Scar 17. Both of these guns are slow firing compared to a lot of the others, but pack a pretty mean punch to compensate, giving the two a decent power output over all ranges, providing you can get those shots to connect. They perform in a similar way to each other, but still have their own pros, cons and differentiating factors that might give one an edge over the other in a specific gunfight. So this video is going to be highlighting a bunch of those similarities and differences in a series of tests, along with giving you a heads up on what kind of attachments might benefit a certain gun a little bit more than the other. So let's start off with bullet damage first. Here's a little test to see how many shots are going to be needed to kill. We can see from the test that up close, things are going to be pretty similar for both guns regarding body shots, with the AK and Scar both taking 3 bullets to put the other guy down at point blank range. Though it's going to be a slightly different story over longer distances, with the AK-47 being able to retain that 3-shot kill to the chest against someone far away, and the Scar actually requiring an extra 4th bullet to kill at the same distance, generally giving the AK-47 a slight edge over long sightlines regarding bullets to kill. I should point out that the AK's extra range body shot damage is only really relevant if you hit your target's chest, as landing shots on their legs and lower body is going to drop the damage down, putting it more in line with the Scar. But it shows us that the AK-47 does have the potential to deal more damage, providing you aim for your target's upper body, sometimes allowing you to take someone down in one less shot during a gunfight, which is always a nice thing to be able to do. Moving over to headshots next. Here's another test to see what happens if you aim for the noggin. So that last test shows us that both guns are going to be on a similar level regarding headshots, requiring the same number of rounds to kill. If you slap the other guy in the face with a couple of bullets, then it's going to be lights out no matter the range or no matter the gun, with it taking just 2 shots for both the AK and Scar to drop someone over any range. If we relate all of this test information so far with fire rates, with the Scar being able to shoot a tiny bit faster than the AK-47, this actually gives the Scar some slightly quicker kill times in close quarters, but can potentially be slower over longer ranges, due to the AK-47 dishing out more upper body damage. The difference in fire rates is very marginal, so you're probably not going to notice any distinct advantage when playing, but it could potentially give the Scar a little bit of an edge when you're playing aggressively, closer to the action. Jumping over to Gunsmith, out of these two guns, the AK-47 is the only one to have access to an alternate ammo type, with it also being compatible with those slightly weaker 5.45 by 39mm rounds. These are going to change things up a bit, by increasing fire rate but lowering the damage. As if we look at this test, the 5.45 rounds are going to have a lower power output, taking the same shots to kill up close, but nerfing the gun's range. Instead of being able to kill in 3 bullets over longer distances, it can now take up to 5 to seal the deal, meaning the AK with the 5.45 rounds will actually be deadlier up close, killing in the same number of shots whilst having a faster fire rate, but it'll be less powerful over distance, resulting in slower kill times, despite shooting a tad quicker. Same thing goes for headshots too, with it being just as strong as standard up close, but less so over range. So the AK-47 with 5.45 rounds might therefore benefit players who prefer to run and gun, playing with aggressive tactics while sticking to close quarters. Unless you choose to run it with some extended barrels, which will help to extend its damage drop off, making the gun more useful over medium distances. Of course, all of these damage tests so far only apply if you play Modern Warfare's multiplayer, or if you're up against someone in Warzone without any armour, because it's obviously going to take more shots to kill a lot of players in Warzone, with most people having access to armour. But all of these characteristics still apply anyway, with the standard AK47 having the superior damage output, often allowing it to kill in less bullets than the Scar when aiming for the chest. The Scar has a slightly faster fire rate to compensate, and make up for that lower chest shot damage. Though the 5.45 rounds will allow the AK47 to fire even quicker still, making it the deadliest variation of the two guns in close quarters, but the weakest variation against targets further away. Anyway, in the next part of the video, we're going to be looking at the recoil patterns, and if we get our AK47 and shoot at the wall without adjusting its line of fire, we can see quite noticeably that the gun is mainly going to suffer from vertical recoil and not much else. The line of fire is going to drift upwards quite violently, but it's not really going to deviate around very much, just a little bit to the right after the first couple of shots, which could potentially throw your aim off slightly. Moving over to the Scar and doing the exact same thing, just next to our AK47 plot, we can see that by firing away at the wall, the gun's not going to kick upwards quite as dramatically, but it is going to drift over to the right the longer you hold the trigger, something the AK doesn't really do. These are obviously two pretty different recoil patterns, meaning that both guns are going to perform a bit differently when you're aiming and firing. Because the AK47 is more prone to kicking upwards, this is going to make the gun feel less stable and harder to control, perhaps limiting its effectiveness over range when firing in full auto. You might need to burst your shots into smaller groupings to stay on target, even tapping the trigger to remain accurate against players far away in the distance. And so this can sometimes slightly reduce kill times over range, compensating for its potentially higher damage output. With that said, the AK's recoil doesn't kick around from side to side very much, nor does it drift to a specific side in full auto fire. So if you want to try and counter its recoil using attachments, you should probably focus on equipping ones that specifically reduce muzzle climb and vertical kick, like the compensator, operator foregrip, or even some of the extended barrels. The Scar, on the other hand, being a bit of a different kind of beast, suffers slightly more from horizontal drifting with prolonged fire, which could potentially push your aim off target, especially if said target is far away. It also kicks upwards a bit more than a few of the other assault rifles too, so the Scar will also benefit from attachments that reduce muzzle climb as well, much like the AK47. But because it's more prone to drifting to the right in full auto fire, you might want to equip some attachments that will help to stabilise that recoil and make it more accurate with sustained fire, like the muzzle brake, tactical foregrip and granulated grip tape, as these are all going to help you out a lot and make it easier to stay on target for longer without needing to burst your shots. But what about that AK47 5.45 ammo, you might ask? Well, if we compare that to the other patterns, we can see that it's going to kick around in a very similar way to when you're using normal AK bullets, apart from the fact that the bullet holes are smaller on the wall, due to that ammo type being weaker and having less material penetration. So next up, we're going to do a few mobility tests, starting off with an aim down sights comparison. And as we can see here, by putting the two side by side, there's going to be very little difference regarding their ADS speeds. As to the naked eye, they're pretty much identical. Slowing things down doesn't really reveal anything new either, because just like at normal speed, you're not really going to notice much of a difference between the AK or the Scar. And that pretty much goes for when we slow things down even further still, with the comparison having the same sort of results. No massive difference to point out there. Obviously, ADS speeds can be increased and decreased depending on the weapon attachments, but generally speaking, both the AK and Scar are going to be on a similar playing field when they're in their base form, meaning neither of them is really going to have an advantage over the other straight off the bat, and neither of them in particular is going to benefit more from having attachments that affect ADS speeds, with them both performing in a very similar way to each other. Mag sizes and reload speeds next. A standard AK-47 in Modern Warfare holds a fairly average sized 30 round magazine. Not exactly loads of ammo to go wild with, but enough to get the job done fine enough most of the time. The FN Scar, on the other hand, holds 10 bullets less, with its standard magazines holding just 20 rounds. Not very much at all compared to the AK, along with a lot of the other guns in the game. Because both weapons kill with a similar number of bullets, and with the AK-47 actually sometimes having slightly more power over range, killing in just 3 chest shots at any distance, this paints a pretty clear picture to us that the Scar is easily going to be the less dependable weapon of the two in a gunfight, as you're more likely to run out of ammo of it during a battle. This means that the Scar will likely benefit more from having extended magazines, but the options available still aren't exactly all that impressive. The Scar's got access to 25 or 30 round extended mags, so at maximum it'll only be able to hold the same number of shots as a standard AK. Whereas the AK47 also has access to extended magazines, but these can hold a lot more, allowing you to pick from either 40 or 75 rounds. These larger magazines will make the AK47 less manoeuvrable, but at least you've got the option to improve the gun's reliability much more than the Scar's, if you want, as the AK's 40 shot mag and 75 round drum will keep you in the fight for a lot longer, cutting down periods of vulnerability. Which will probably come in handy in Warzone, where you'll often need more bullets to take down other players, due to them being strapped up with a load of armour. Along with those extended magazines, the AK-47s also get access to those 5.45 mags as well, which are the same size as the normal magazines at 30 rounds. But because these bullets are weaker, often requiring more of them to kill, it'll slightly reduce the weapon's dependability. Not to mention that they'll also make the AK fire faster, at a less manageable rate, where the number of shots you fire out will be a little bit harder to control. The AK-47 is generally going to be a more dependable weapon that can get you out of a sticky situation easier. Not just because it can hold more ammo, but because it also reloads quicker too. This next test reveals that the AK-47's tactical reloads are slightly faster than the Scar's. Not by much, but still enough to make a noticeable difference, which can be seen even clearer if we slow things down a bit. The AK-47 is going to be ready first, with more available ammo to be used, and the same thing goes for the gun's empty reloads too, with the Scar being just a little bit slower than the AK. Once again, not by a great deal, but still enough to impact gameplay, especially if you reload quite often, which you'll probably be doing with the Scar more, due to it having those shorter magazines. So because of this, the Scar will probably benefit a bit more than the AK from having the sleight of hand perk, with it being the less dependable option of the two, in most cases. So that's it for another weapon comparison guys, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe for more content on Call of Duty and other games coming up in the future. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in that next episode.